Hello and welcome back. This particular wellness coaching module is going to show you how to conduct the physical assessment with your customers. A couple of things to be aware of for physical assessment is that first and foremost it can be quite time consuming and also it can be quite confronting for some of our customers. So the reason we're showing you this way is it's because it's the easy way and it's the standard way to make life very, very simple for yourself and also for your customers as well. The first thing you'll need to consider is you need equipment before you start. You'll need a height chart. We have a Be Good to Yourself height chart here, or you would need the equivalent. You'll also need your consultation form, and where we'll be referring to is the section under physical assessment, which comes after the customer registration information and after the medical check, which you've just completed. The other thing you'll require is a set of body fat scales, and today we're using the Omron body fat scales, and we're going to use them to determine the customer's BMI, their weight and also their body fat percentage. You'll also need a very long tape measure. Go for a 3 metre version, which is available in most variety stores, and the reason we need a 3 metre tape measure is because the standard 150 centimetre tape measures don't always fit around some of our clients. We'd now like to introduce you to a special guest, and that's Loretta. Welcome, Loretta.
Thank you, Natalie.
Loretta's kindly offered to allow us to demonstrate how to do the measurements on her today. So thanks very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Before you conduct any physical assessment on your customers, it's really important that you have their permission first. Okay, so they've just come in, they've sat down with you, you've gone through their customer details, then you've gone through and done a medical check. Now you're going to stand them up and physically assess them. And some people can be quite nervous or concerned about this. So always, first and foremost, we ask for permission of our customers. So Loretta, are you happy for me to conduct some measurements with you today?
Yes, I am, Natalie.
Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to start first and foremost with the height. So the reason we start with the height is because when we know how tall Loretta is, we can actually then work out her body mass index. Remember, BMI is a measure of height and weight. So standing Loretta up against the wall here with our Be Good to Yourself chart, we're just going to ensure that her heels are back as far as they can be to the wall. Okay, and she's standing up beautifully and straight as she is. The next thing we'll do is you could take your hand or you could take a flat object such as a ruler just to get the landmark there, placing it on top of Loretta's head and then just asking her to step forward for us. Okay, nice and simple, and then we just write down the measure that occurs on the height chart there. Thank you, Loretta. The next thing we are going to do is then use the scales. When we use our body fat scales, we need to take the person's height first because if we don't know how tall they are, it won't be able to calculate their BMI. So we're going to use our Omron scales. A couple of things that you need to be aware of prior to taking somebody's body fat measurements is that a small electrical current is actually going to be sent through that customer's body when you measure their body fat using these scales. Now, if your customer happens to have a heart pacemaker, this is not good. So we need to check first and foremost, make sure your customer doesn't have a heart pacemaker before we stand them on the scales. If it so happens that they did have a heart pacemaker, that's okay, we just won't use the body fat function as I'm about to demonstrate to you. We'll just simply weigh those people. The other thing is your body fat scales won't actually work if your customer's wearing stockings, as Loretta is today. So you need to ensure they've got bare feet when they come for their weighs and their measures each week. Now, it won't matter if your customer did turn up wearing stockings today, that's fine, we'll just take the body measurement next week. There's no need to ask them to remove their stockings for the measurement. Your next module will deal with how to use the scales to take those measurements, and we'll begin that process now. So if we start now with the Omron scales here, we simply turn them on down the bottom here. Then to take the scales into the function that will determine their body fat percentage and also their BMI, we simply press the user key. So we press this and we'll see this is user number 1. Then we press the set key to lock that in. And we press the set key again to take us to the customer's age. Now you can use your up and down arrows in order to lock in the person's current age. In this case we'll say 34. And press set. Now the scales want to know whether your customer is male or female, and again we just toggle between the little lady and the little man and lock in using the set key. And now the scales will want to know how tall your customer is in centimetres. So we use the up and down arrow keys and press set. And now the scales will want to confirm a 34-year-old female, 157 centimetres tall. If this is all correct, and once the scales arrive here at 0.0 kilograms, they're ready for you to stand your customer on the scales. Simply ask your customer to stand on the scales well balanced and ensure they stand as still as possible. It's now locking in the customer's weight, and it's sending a small current through their body to measure their body fat percentage. And now it's done. Now you'll see that you have 3 readings that are continually flashing over on the scales. One is body fat percentage, one is BMI, and the other is your customer's body weight in kilograms. Down the bottom you'll see negative, 0, plus and plus plus for the BMI and body fat percentage readings. The 0 is the normal range, and this is the range ideally your customer will fall into for their age and for their height. As we know, BMI takes into account a person's height and also their weight. And the body fat percentage reading takes into account your customer's gender and their age. You can now record these 3 measurements on your customer registration form. Now we're ready to do the measurements on our customer, and there's a specific order that we're actually going to conduct these measurements in. We're going to start with the arm, then the neck, then we'll do the chest, the waist and the hips. And I'm going to show you the standard way of doing it for Be Good to Yourself, because it's easier for you and it's less confronting for your customer as well. So we start with the arm measurement, and we have our 3-metre tape measure here. We certainly don't need this for Loretta, for demonstration purposes. And we're going to ask Loretta, though, to lift her arm out to the side like so, to take her arm measurement. Or, if you choose, you can have the customer have their arm down by their side. Either way, it's really important that you get the same measurement every single week. So you need to make sure that you're hitting the same landmark every week when you measure each area of the body. Now, with the arm in particular, if you were to miss and measure here one week and here the next, you're actually going to get inconsistent measurements, and it's demotivating for your customer, so make sure you get it right. The first thing you can do in order to get it right is find the shoulder bone here and also the elbow and just the midpoint in between. Really simple way. Sometimes customers have also got a freckle or some other landmark that you can use, and pick on that same spot every single week. Now, to take the measurement, simply come around with the tape measure like so. Make sure it's nice and flat, nice and straight, and it's not twisted at all. And that's all you need to do. And then write it down. The next measurement you're going to take is the person's neck measurement. Now, a word of warning, before you measure somebody's neck, just be a little bit aware that some people have issues around things being up close and personal around their neck. So, you need to check in with your customer first before conducting a neck measurement. If they choose not to have it done, that's absolutely fine. Again, you'll notice I'm standing behind Loretta here, and that's no accident. For me to come at Loretta from the front with a tape measure and measure her neck would be quite confronting for her. So I'm deliberately standing behind. Loretta, is it okay if I now take a neck measurement from you?
Yes, please, Nat.
Thank you, Loretta. Okay, so just very simply, pop the tape measure around, take the measurement, make sure it's nice and flat, and then we're finished. And then we write the measurement down. Okay, if you happen to have somebody who's quite tall and you're trying to take their neck measurement, you may ask that they sit on a chair for this particular measurement. It'll be much easier for you, and you certainly won't be getting the measurements wrong. So now we've taken our arm and our neck measurement. The next we're going to do is the chest, the waist and the hips as well, but we're actually going to do this all in one sequence, and it'll make life very, very easy for you. So what we're going to do is hand the tape measure to your customer across the front of them and simply ask them to pass it back to you. Okay, so I've got both ends of the tape measure here from behind. Now Loretta can be the person responsible for organising this tape measure across the front of her chest there, so it's nice and straight and it's not twisted, and I certainly don't need to be in that area of her body. Okay. So we've just got a little twist in the back here, so I'll just iron that out. Perfect. Make sure it's straight. Where you want it is right across underarm height or right across the middle of the chest there. And if your customer happens to be a large, particularly a barrel-chested male, what you'll find is when they breathe out, the tape measure can move quite a lot and it'll change your measurements. So ask your customer to breathe out and then breathe in and take the measurement when their lungs are at their lowest capacity. So Loretta, if I could just ask you to breathe out for me. Big breath and then breathe in. Thank you. And take the measurement on that when her lungs are nice and empty. Nice and simple. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this measurement down, but I'm not actually going to let go of the tape measure. I'm not going to try and lasso Loretta too much. It may be that you simply loosen it so that you can write down the measurement. But if we don't let go of it, then we don't have to go through the process of lining it all up again. So the next measurement is the waist measurement. And the landmark that you're going to look for here is the person's belly button or the narrowest point of their waist. Okay, if we always pick on the narrowest point of the waist, we're never going to miss from week to week. Okay, sometimes the narrowest point for people is up higher, sometimes it's down lower. As long as we always find that narrowest point, we won't miss. Making sure that the tape measure again is nice and straight. It's not puckered at all. And there we go, we just write it down. Nice and easy. Now the last measurement is just the hip measurement, and again, you'll see I haven't let go of the tape measure. All I'm going to do is simply slide it down, check that Loretta's feet are nice and close together. That's the way. If somebody's standing with their feet apart slightly, it'll change the measurement. So we just need to make sure that they've got their feet together. And come round for the side. Measure this one from the side, people. We don't need to be round behind somebody there taking measurements in this particular part of the body. Again, making sure it's nice and straight, parallel to the floor, and very, very simple. And then we just write the measurement down. So there you can see you've got a very simple way of measuring the arm, the neck, the chest, the waist, the hips, all in one very easy movement. And Loretta, that was okay for you, was it?
Yes, it was most comfortable.
Thank you very much. Now you've taken all of your customer measurements. You've got their BMI, their body fat percentage, you've also got their weight in kilograms, and you've got all of their centimetre measurements using the tape measure for their arm, their neck, their chest, their waist, their hips. Using this information, you can also now calculate their total daily energy expenditure using the calculator, and you can also calculate their waist to hip ratio too, simply by dividing their waist measurement by their hip measurement and comparing it to the charts available. And that completes the physical assessment section of your Be Good to Yourself consultation. Now you're going to move on and do a dietary and lifestyle evaluation.